Raikou, Entei, and Suicune are obviously making their way into raid battles for the first time in a very long time. A lot of us are very excited to get these Pokemon. They look absolutely fantastic, but are they all going to be worth your time, energy, and resources to go after with your money, to raid for them in excess quantity? And if you do get a good one, will you power that one up, or will you wait to a later date and time? Because we're going to analyze all of them in their regular forms, in their shadow forms, and then how they function as meta attackers and in Go Battle League. So let's dive in. Welcome to the Trader Club. Here we go. The three beasts, some of my favorite Pokemon in the game because of their looks. I love the big cat look. I think they look fantastic, but just because they look cool, is it going to be worth our energy to power up? Because legendaries are expensive Pokemon. Obviously, doing them in person is a much better chance of getting good quality Pokemon. So let's jump into these Pokemon and see what we should do with all of these. So let's start off with my favorite Pokemon. I personally love it. I'm already an instinct player, so I have electricity in my mind at all times. Raikou. Raikou is all electric. It's going to have one weakness, which is going to be ground, and it's going to resist electric, flying, as well as steel. This Pokemon is going to max out at 3,902 with an attack value of 241, pretty decent, a defense of 195, and a stamina of 207. So a relatively evenly balanced Pokemon, a little bit more heavy on the attack category, but unfortunately, it's not a crazy high attack value. If it was in the 260s, 70s, it would really be making some headway in the electric category for its regular form, but don't forget it does have a shadow. And its moveset will be Thunder Shock and Volt Switch for its fast moves, and its charge moves will be Wild Charge. It does get a random moveset of Shadow Ball, Thunder, and Thunderbolt. And Wild Charge is the premier meta attacker electric move. So this Pokemon is already favored in that regard. So now let's see how powerful this Pokemon is and what is the best moveset that it gets in the meta attacker category. The best overall moveset is going to be Thunder Shock and Wild Charge. But the strongest version of it is going to be in the Shadow form, obviously, at 44.46 for an ER value, with the Thunder Shock and the Shadow Ball 39.26, which is something that does make me curious. Even though we do have some pretty strong ghost type attackers, I do want to see where it does sit in the ghost category, which we will find out. And the regular Pokemon of the Raikou will be Wild Charge and Thunder Shocks at 38.48. So right off the bat, guys, 38.48, a little bit concerning for this Pokemon because the best parts of these Pokemon are always coming if you are above 40 in the ER value, and if you're around 45, you're game breaking potential for that category. But the Shadow already has that potential, so let's find out where it does sit in the ghost category, and then we'll get into the electric. So the strongest ghosts in the game, remember we cannot use it as a ghost type Pokemon, just with a ghost second moveset, is going to be Shadow Mewtwo Y with 55.56, Mega Gengar with double ghost moveset at 52. Then if we want to see a first non-Mega Pokemon, we can look at the Shadow Mewtwo with Shadow Ball at 49.43, or the Lunala at 43.98, and regular Mewtwo at 42.75. If we do go to the second page, you are not going to find the Shadow Ball, but on the third page at the top, you're finding the Shadow Raikou in the 21st spot overall at 39.26, which is above the regular Gengar. So above the regular Gengar, pretty good, but on the second page, we have a lot of powerful Pokemon, such as the Giratina Origin form, Chandelure, Shadow Alakazam, Darkrai, as well as the Golden Go. So if we're looking at Pokemon, having Shadow Ball on this Pokemon as the second moveset benefits it. I mean, it doesn't get any other moveset that you would rather have than that, because the other moveset would be Wild Charge. So this Pokemon is set up perfectly that you might as well have Shadow Ball on it and use it to your benefit. So let's continue. In the electric category, is it going to be a top attacker? Number one Pokemon overall in the game, electric category, Shadow Raikou, Thunder Shock Wild Charge at 44.46, followed by Xurkitree with Thunder Shock and Discharge at 43.63, followed closely by Zekrom, Charge Beam and Fusion Bolt at 43.6. So looking at these top three spots, very impressive already. However, the one thing is that at some point, I know this is pretty far out there, but Zekrom could get a Shadow, as well as Xurkitree could get a Shadow. Zekrom more likely to get sooner than the Xurkitree, but if both of those get a Shadow, they are going to blow past the Shadow Raikou as the strongest electric types in the game, which, I mean, dude, Shadow Zekrom is going to look incredibly cool. Then we're going to have Mega Manectric, Shadow Electivire, very strong Pokemon, 42.96. So the one thing that kind of pulls in for me here, Shadow Electivire, it is readily available when it is available in Shadow Stops. We are able to get it powered up for cheap XL candy because it's not paid for through raids. So man, for about 1 point, I mean, yeah, obviously I would much rather have this very, very strong Pokemon, and when it does come out in Shadow raids, I am definitely going hard for that Pokemon because the one I have right now is not so great. But man, Electivire in that spot, not too far behind, and a budget counter is very, very enticing there to save you guys on paying for XL candy for these Pokemon. And we have the Shadow Zapdos, pretty good there, 42.88. Shadow Magnezone, 41.83. Shadow Luxray, Thundurus in the Therian form at 40. Then we have Mega Ampharos down there at the bottom. So Mega Manectric is the strongest Mega in the game. And then at the top in the 11th spot, we have the Raikou overall at 38.48, which is the 4th available non-Shadow, non-Mega in the game right now. And we have Shadow Alolan Golem, Electivire not too far behind it. Again, Zapdos, paid Pokemon once again. And then we have Magnezone at 36.24. So that leaves us to, what do we do with this Pokemon in Pokemon Go? Do we raid hard for it and power up the regular Raikou? I would prefer that if you do power up this Pokemon, if it's lucky. Would I say to max it all the way out to 40? Well, let's check it out in GBL to see if it's multi-purpose first. In the Great League, the Shadow would be ranked 196, so that's a pass there, because the regular is ranked 281. In the Ultra League, it's ranked 107 with Volt Switch, Wild Charge, and Shadow Ball. The Shadow will be ranked 154, and in the Master League, Volt Switch, Wild Charge, Shadow Ball, ranked 79 in the Shadow overall. Okay, so not too bad of a Pokemon. So if you do choose to get all the XL candies and eventually power up a Shadow Pokemon, like I will probably do because I am an Instinct player and I want to represent all these Pokemon. I just like the electric Pokemon, but more importantly, not even about the teams. I like electric Pokemon, but I also really enjoy the looks of these Pokemon. So for me personally, that gets me excited. So I would definitely max a regular one, a shiny one, a shadow one, a shiny shadow one, but that's just me personally because it's kind of the Pokemon that I like the look of. But beyond that, functionally speaking, you can do much better things without using this Pokemon. Electivire is very close. Zekrom is much more powerful, as well as Xurkitree much more powerful. So if you are going for a budget route, go there. But if you want the strongest electric in the game available right now, Shadow Raikou would be that option. Which now is going to change us into the Entei. It's Fire Brother. Let's check it out. Entei, all fire type Pokemon. It's going to max out at 39.26 with an attack of 235, so a little bit less than the Raikou. A defense of 171, but a stamina of 251, so it's a little bit more tanky of a Pokemon. Just about the same exact max CP here. It's going to have weakness to ground, rock, and water, and it's going to resist Bug, Fairy, Fire, Grass, Ice, as well as Steel. Pretty good resistances there, but 3 weaknesses, not crazy, but those weaknesses are very common Pokemon that do have movesets out there. And its moveset is going to be Fire Fang and Fire Spin for its quick moves. Fire Fang will definitely be the recommended meta attacker moveset, and its charged attacks will be Flamethrower, Iron Head, Flame Charge, Fire Blast, Overheat, as well as a new added moveset of Scorching Sands. So let's waste no more time and get into the strongest moveset on this Pokemon. Entei overall strongest moveset is going to be Fire Fang Overheat at 44.12. Then we have the Fire Fang Flamethrower at 42.31. Then we have the Fire Blast at 40.48, and the Scorching Sands actually at 39.32 with a decent ER value there. Then we have the Entei regular at 38.42 with Fire Fang and Overheat. So now let's start off in the ground category and see where this Scorching Sands does sit. At the top we have the Primal Groudon, Mudshot Precipitous Blades at 58.15. Holy smokes. Then we have the Mega Garchomp, Shadow Garchomp, Mega Heracross going down. The regular Groudon, the first non-Shadow, non-Mega, we do have it at 43.17, followed by Shadow Mamoswine 42.85, Mega Swampert Garchomp with Earth Power at 41.25, Mega Metagross, and then on the second page, actually in the 11th spot overall, we have the Shadow Entei with a second moveset of 39.32, which is above the Ursaluna and down the list. So as a Shadow Pokemon with this Pokemon's moveset, as a second moveset, looks pretty good already. Especially that having the Iron Head moveset isn't really even stacking up much. But now let's continue on in the fire category to see this. At the top overall, Mega Charizard Y with the Blast Burn, 51.91, followed closely by Mega Blaziken at 51.65. Then we have the Reshiram with the Fusion Flare, massively boosted movesets on both the Reshiram and the Zekrom at 46.8. Then we have the Mega Charizard X, followed by Shadow Entei at the top with 44.12. In the 5th available Pokemon overall, followed by Shadow Ho-Oh at 43, Shadow Moltres, Blaziken, and then Heatran at the bottom with the Magma Storm. So Reshiram is already more powerful in the non-Shadow form, similar to as we did see with the Zekrom, which was close to the Raikou. In the Shadow form, oh man, this is really powerful. So you don't even need to power up a Shadow Pokemon to get the very powerful version, as long as it has the Fusion Flare on that Reshiram. And eventually, if it does get a Shadow form, man, that Pokemon's gonna be an absolute monster. But wow, this is impressive already for that Reshiram. But if we go to the second page, we can go all the way down until the 18th spot to see the Entei with the Fire Fang and the Overheat. But it's below Darmanitan, Volcarona, Ho-Oh, and other Pokemon, but it is above the Moltres. But for just to check it out, Mega Metagross at the top, 52, Shadow Metagross, 50, regular Metagross, 43. Then we have the Melmetal Jirachi, Mega Lucario, not out yet, Dialga at 38.7. And if we go to the second page, actually in the 13th spot overall, pretty impressive, 37.24. So this Pokemon actually does get some pretty good movesets. Let's see how it does sit in GBL. In the Great League, 564 and 590 for the Shadow, no go. Ultra League, 527, 537 for the Shadow, no go. And in the Master League, 117 for the Shadow and 130 for the non-Shadow, with Fire Spin, Flame Charge, and Scorching Sands. So unfortunately for this Pokemon, cool looking Pokemon gets outbid by a non-Shadow and it definitely gets wrecked by the shadow. So for this Pokemon, once again, pretty cool. Not one of the top attackers in the category for fire, for ground, or for steel, but cool looking Pokemon at that. And once again, I am a big fan of this Pokemon, so I am doing this strictly for being a fanboy, not so much a function. So if I were to say, should you max both of these and go super hard for Entei and Raikou so far, I would say no. There's better Pokemon for you guys to use, so treat them as shiny Pokemon as of right now. Not to say they couldn't get new movesets in the future, but right now that's just where they sit. So now let's finally finish off with Suicune. Suicune is an all-water type Pokemon. Maxes out at 3,372. Yes, you heard that right. 3,372. Not the strongest Pokemon. A little bit more tanky here. An attack of 180, a defense of 235, and a stamina of 225. So nothing even too crazy in the defense and the stamina category. With it being water, it's going to be weak to electric and grass, resistance to fire, ice, water, and steel. With movesets of extrasensory, snarl, and ice fang. With elite TMable movesets of hidden power. And then in the charge category, we are getting ice beam, we are getting bubble beam, water pulse, and hydro pump. So this Pokemon doesn't even get like a surf or something really powerful in the water moveset category, unfortunately. So we're already not looking good in the meta attacker category. So Suicune overall, snarl, hydro pump is going to be the strongest moveset at 31.54. Do I really need to go further than that in the meta attacker category? Extrasensory 30.22, ice fang, hydro pump at 28.55, and then down the list, and this is in the shadow form, the regular form, with the snarl and the hydro pump at 27.52. But let's check it out for fun. We have Primal Kyogre at the top with Origin Pulse at 58.19. We have Mega Swampert in the second spot at 50.56, Mega Blastoise. Then we have Ash Greninja, Mega Gyarados, Kyogre with Origin Pulse at 43.04, Palkia, and down the list. On the second page, we are going to find none of them. On the third page, we will also find none of them, but we are going to find it on the fourth page at the bottom in the 40th spot. So it's not even making the top 3 pages in the water category. So this one is a hardcore pass to power up for the meta attacker. It doesn't even breach any of the top, but maybe it's good in GBL. In the Great League, 677 and 690 for the Shadow. In the Ultra League, 431 and 448 for the Shadow. And in the Master League, the Shadow is ranked 154 and 158 in the non-Shadow. So this one is a hard pass for me. Suicune has always been extremely underpowered in Pokemon Go. It's a pretty unfortunate scenario. So overall speaking, you can skip out on rating all these Pokemon except for the Raikou if you want the overall strongest electric Pokemon in the game. Entei has been overtaken by that Fusion Flare in the Reshiram in the non-Shadow form, and the Zekrom now competes very highly with the Shadow. So these Pokemon, great looking Pokemon. Would I power them up and raid really hard for them because they're so powerful in Pokemon Go? My answer would be no for all of them as of right now, but there are cool shinies, so do with what you may. And they haven't been out for a very long time, so get those shinies. And there will be Shadow shiny raids at some point in the future. I don't know when, but that is going to be a thing, and then you can raid a little bit harder for it. But in-person raids in Pokemon Go are so much more lucrative for that XL candy, which is the most valuable resource that you can extract from these raid battles. Thank you guys for being here as always. To all my likers, commenters, subscribers, Patreon members. Everybody takes their support, subscription, and participation to XL. I'll miss you guys out on the next video. Peace. I want to take this time to thank everybody who supports me in every facet. It means the world to me, and an extra special thank you to all my Patreons. I greatly appreciate the extra support to continue to allow me to pursue Pokemon Go full time, allowing me to create my daily video uploads in the most timely fashion for everyone's benefit. Plus, I get the amazing experience of sharing my creative processes behind the scenes and raiding all around the globe with select upper tiers. Thank you everybody for being a part of the Trainer Club. You all mean the absolute world to me, and I will see you guys out on the next video.